Let's go fishing. I'm on a mission. It's so pretty, I sure hate to waste this chance. We'll find a shady spot, not too cool, not too high. Perfect for living fishing and romance. Oh yes.
Morning, girls and boys and girls. Christian and I, we went out and fished a private lake today. We was back down in there and put my boat in, and we took a little while for us to find them and figure them out. But we started catching a few of them, and we didn't get there till about 11 o'clock right in the middle of the day. But and then we went out on the end of a point and put the electronics out down and found them, and we caught several, had a good time. But this is a lake that Christian, I think he leases, they have a sod business going on, and I think he leases this off of him, and we got permission to go out fishing, and it's a nice lake. I mean, it's crystal clear. You can see down to the bottom, and the fish were just, I don't know, when the water's real clear like that, the fish are just almost transparent, you might say. They're just really, really green. They look like they've been, spray painted. The Christian's pulling one in here. We caught this one on a shiner. We started out, we took some shiners with us, and caught this one on a shiner. And that's the only one we caught on a shiner. We had a couple dozen shiners, and that's the only one we caught on a shiner. And we switched around, and we did a little bit of searching for about, we looked around for about an hour, and then we found them. That's the one he caught with the shiner right off the bat this morning, and we was going to come back to this spot, but we got looking around everywhere. Like I said, put the live target down, and found some fish off of a point, and there was a big grass bed out off this point, and then fish were schooled on that grass bed. It was almost in the middle of the lake. It's really that's where that live target and live scope come in really handy. We were there in the middle of the day, but if you was there at daylight, or about right now, about an hour before dark, you'd have a blast on that lake. I mean, it's just, it's not pressured at all. And nobody's been on it for a while. Here's where we found them at, though. I was watching that live target, and I told Christian, I said, my gosh, there's 15 or 20 of them right there in that grass out there on that point. And I threw a wacky worm out and let it sink down, just kind of twist it a little bit, and bam. And I told Christian, I said, man, throw out there, they're in there. And he no more and pitched out there, and he had one on. He threw out there and he had one on. So, yeah, it's amazing though. They were suspended, and I thought I could see because the temperature got down to 50-some degrees last night, and I don't know what the water temperature was, but I thought, these lakes and stuff are going to be turned over. But this one here is about 20 foot deep. You know what I'm saying? It's really deep. So I didn't see no thermocline or anything. So it's still, it still hadn't turned over, and you can see we're pulling them in. Now, they're not big. I mean, but I guess there's been some 10-pound ones caught in there. But these are about a pound and a half piece. The first one Christian got there was about 3 pounds. It was a nice fish. But you can see how clean they are. The water's crystal clear. It really is. I turned on the live target, and that lake's just full of crappie. I mean, it's just from one end to the other. I mean, there's just crappie everywhere. And I told him, you could go in there and troll. And get you a limit of crappie in no time. But we were bass fishing, we were bass fishing. I didn't want to, and I didn't have no crappie stuff with me. It was all at the house. So, but yeah, I was down there piddling around, and Christian, he threw back out, and he caught like 4 of them in a row. Just about as fast as he could throw out there, he caught 4 of them in a row. It was about a pound and a half, but yeah, like I always say, I don't care what size they are, as long as I'm catching fish and got something biting on our poles, I'm tickled, I'm happy,
Oh, he's a better one.
Yeah, there's a big grass bed right in the middle of that lake. He was throwing a speed worm, Magnum speed worm, watermelon red, and catching him on it because the water was so clear, and but that's what he was catching his fish on. I'm digging in my box, trying to get squared away, and he's dragging the fish in. Also, we switched over and threw a fluke. Of course, I'm big on watermelon red. We threw the watermelon fluke, and I started catching them on the watermelon fluke. They're not giants, but they're fish. Catching them out of the lake. Yeah, this is a private lake out there, and it's nobody fishes it. I mean, it's just. I mean, the ramp to it. There's like a little concrete ramp to it, and it was so high. I mean, the weeds were up to almost to the windows on our door, on our truck, and there hadn't been nobody in there, so.
Well, this is proof.
I could feel him grabbing that. I had a wacky worm there, and I could feel him grabbing the edge of it. The little small ones, you couldn't get a hook on it. But yeah, I was pointing over there. My gosh, there's 7 or 8 of them over right on top of that grass. It's really unreal. I use this live target. I really enjoy using it, especially in a place like this. And up headwaters, I really enjoyed using it up headwaters because it has some deep water in it. But I'm also going to get a Garmin, the live scope, and put beside my live target and just kind of compare them. I just like fooling with that kind of stuff. I like fooling with electronics. It's like watching a video games and then fish come up and grab that bait. It's just really interesting. And it's like I said, if you can afford one of them, I would get the live scope because it's more like a little detailed. But I like Lowrance because I've always used Lowrance forever. And it really paid off today. I mean, we found these fish out in the middle of this lake, We hit the bank a little bit. And of course, you can't beat that bank, especially in the middle of the day. So we switched out into the middle of the lake and started catching them. And you could see them come get the bait. We'd say, here they come. And, they'd be coming right towards the bait. So. Here I switched around and I seen them on this wall right here. I just started throwing a fluke over there and started pulling them in. They were against that wall a little bit, that seawall, and I'm only using about 6-pound test with the fluke on it. So and I lost a couple of them because I couldn't really get a good hook set on them. Had that real light line, but yeah, just another good day, guys. We was there about 3 hours. I had to do editing for about 3 hours. But we spent about an hour and a half just looking at the lake, just running around and watching the live target where, here and there, and just kind of figure them out. We're coming up on a full moon, so I would say if a lake like this, maybe not this month, but January and February, you go in there, and I'm sure there's some giants on the nest in there because there's nobody bothers them, So, that's what. And then the big ones, Christian was asking me. I said, them big ones, they don't hang out on the bank. I mean, they spend 95% of their time out in deep water, feeding on big crappie, and and then just you know, they don't. Only time they come up on the bank is in the shallows is to do the spawn thing. Most of the time, their life they stand out in the middle of that lake. And you find a hump or a hole or somewhere where they're comfortable, where they can get feed. That's where they're going to stay. Like I said, we figured out a little bit there in just a short time, but really it takes you several days to figure out a lake like this. I mean, even though it's, you know, not giant, you still got to find a pattern where they're staying and stuff, and then you can just go back again and again and again and catch fish. But yeah, but for the short time he was, Christian, I only caught a couple, but Christian, he got into them. I mean, he was on a roll. He got the feel of them on the bottom right there, and he was swimming that speed worm through that grass, and you catching them. You know, I was doing the fluke thing here, you know, and then because I was wanting to catch some fish and just scaled down my bait with the fluke and 6-pound test, and caught some fish. I mean, yeah, like I said, it was there in the middle of the day. You go there at daylight or right at dark, and you'd have a blast with the topwater. I'm sure you would.